The Untouchable True School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing game's been missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Now, there were some reports about a week ago that came out about this fight. I didn't get a chance to talk about it, but there were reports, and it looks like it is happening. So save the date, October 23rd. We got a massive fight in the 130-pound division. Really good one, a really good one, and maybe it's not being talked about enough. I've seen some people talk about it, but maybe it's not being talked about enough because I think it's a really good matchup. You've got one of the rising young stars of boxing, Shakur Stevenson, one of the premier talents out of all the young fighters, one of the premier talents, taking in his biggest test to date by far, and that's not even close. He'll be taking on a guy that seems to be a late bloomer, a guy that seems to really be coming into his own, a guy that really seems to be boxing his best fights at the advanced age of 35 years old. And that's, Jamel Herring. God bless Jamel Herring. Served 2 tours in Iraq, served his country, done the country proud, and he's definitely doing himself proud towards the latter stages of his career. Now, this is an interesting fight because it's 2 fighters, in my opinion, the way I see it, it's 2 fighters that are the polar opposites. Shakur Stevenson was a fighter that was supposed to win a gold medal, and like many Americans in the Olympics, failed. Won a silver. Pretty much was groomed to be the next pound-for-pound star of boxing, much like along the lines of a Floyd Mayweather or a Pernell Whitaker and things like that. Had a lot of hype coming into the pros, has won all of his fights convincingly, but hasn't exactly taken the boxing world by storm. His fights against less opposition have been the most exciting. So that's why this fight's so exciting against Jamel Herring. Jamel Herring, on the other hand, he's a guy that if we could rewind time and go back on our time machine about 4 or 5 years ago, he was fighting the Dennis Shafikovs of the world on PBC and getting stopped and folded up like a blue steel chair. His career at one point looked like it wasn't going to amount to much until he got with Brian McIntyre and Terrence Crawford and the B&B boxing gym and the training camp, and he really turned his career on. He's defeated the guys like Masayoshi Ito for the title. He beat Lamont Roach, and then most notably, he had his signature performance, the signature performance of his career when he absolutely battered and just obliterated Carl Frampton. And right now, he's coming in on a high. Jamel Herring is looking like a guy that could go on to do some big things. And, whether Shakur wins this fight or loses this fight, I think it's safe to say that this will be his easily the toughest fight of his career so far, and it'll also be the most exciting matchup because, let's just be real. The guys Shakur Stevenson has been fighting have been very cannon fodder opposition. He fought Felix Caraballo. He fought Jeremiah, the African cop, his last fight. He fought Toka, Khan, Clary. He's been out here fighting Pokemon, man. So it's good to see Shakur Stevenson not just in there with a world-level fighter, but a guy that's world champion, a guy that definitely deserves to be in the ring with him, and a guy that is more than capable of beating him. So interesting fight. You got the Southpaw versus Southpaw matchup. So I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of filling out, a feel-out process. It might be that. It might be a feel-out process, not because of the stances and the Southpaw, but the only reason it might be a feel-out process is because Shakur Stevenson is a guy that likes to kind of start off slow, and he's very methodical in his offensive approach. Same thing with like Jamel, not so much with Jamel Herring. Jamel Herring has shown, at least under Brian McIntyre, that if you give him openings to throw combinations, he'll throw them combinations right away. So it's going to be interesting to see, especially in the early rounds, who imposes themselves in the fight. Because while people might say Shakur Stevenson's the more talented fighter, the reality is the experience he doesn't have it at this level. As to what Jamel Herring not only has the experience at this level, but he's also happens to be boxing his best at this point in his career. So, something's got to give. Something is going to have to give. And to me, I look at this fight as the fight that's going to either make or break Shakur Stevenson's career. Because look, when we look at the guys at 135, the young crop of guys there like Teofimo Lopez has captivated the boxing audience. Ryan Garcia, to an extent, has captivated the boxing audience. Even like, I don't like Devin Haney that much, but a lot of people seem to really be in love with Devin Haney. So you could even say, in his own right, like he's had performances. He's had like the Antonio Moran knockout where he's captivated and really made his mark on the boxing audience. As to where with Shakur Stevenson, he makes these fights look easy, but he's not really captivating people. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like this can be the fight where that happens. This can be the fight where we see Shakur Stevenson become all he can be. And for Jamel Herring, I think I still think people are underestimating Jamel Herring. I think he gets overlooked in this division. Personally, like in a perfect world, I really wish Jamel Herring would fight Oscar Valdez next. I think that's the fight he should be having next. I think he more than earned it after the Carl Frampton performance. But they're gonna make this fight. And if he can win this fight, I'll put it like this. If Jamel Herring beats Shakur Stevenson, we're talking about, what is it, Frampton and then Shakur Stevenson in the same year, he's got to be fighter of the year. For me, unless like Caleb Plant beats Canelo or something like that, or maybe if Wilder knocks out Fury, for me, if we're going off body of work, if we're going off how many fighters, good fighters, top fighters did you beat in a calendar year, Jamel Herring would have to be fighter of the year. Because Carl Frampton is a guy that was a multiple division champion. That fight was looked at to be a pick'em in the eyes of most people. I didn't think so, but a lot of people looked at it as a pick'em. And he dominated Frampton, had the performance of his career. And then now he's fighting Shakur Stevenson, a fighter that is looked at to be the next pound-for-pound king of boxing, depending on who you talk to in the boxing world. And to dethrone that and hand him his first L would be nothing short of sensational. So, yeah, I'm going to say it like that. The only guy I think would have an argument would be Caleb Plant if he beats Canelo. But Jamel Herring, if he beats Shakur Stevenson, I think is the fighter of the year. That's just my opinion. Because of the fights that he's taking and winning. And he's really going from a guy that didn't really have a career 5 years ago to a guy that's one of the premier names in his weight class. And, might even honestly look, if he beat Shakur Stevenson, you might have to start talking about him being fighter of the year and on the pound for pound list. So a lot is at stake in this fight. October 23rd, Atlanta, Georgia, ATL stand up. The Atlanta boxing scene is really picking up. They got a lot of good things going on down there in Atlanta with the fights going on and some of the prospects they have, like Najee Lopez and Brandon Glanton and some good fighters down there in Atlanta, and good for Atlanta. Atlanta's becoming a place for boxing again. I like seeing things like that. But yeah, man, it should be a good fight. Give me your prediction down below. I don't really have one right now. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna watch some film and just come back with you guys with a prediction later on. But you guys give me yours down below. Make sure you take the time to subscribe. But like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just a kid from Dania. So until next time, take care, guys.